I'd like to talk to you about a little bit of a radical idea today, and that radical idea is that the middle class does not really exist. When we typically think of a social hierarchy, most of us think of it this way. We might have been shown this social pyramid in school, or you might have seen it when you were growing up, and basically we imagine society to have these nice clean divisions between a working or lower class, a middle class, and an upper class. Well, today I would like to make a case that our social hierarchy actually looks a lot more like this. You have a teeny tiny sliver of the population that is what I would call the elite class. You have a slightly bigger but still very teeny tiny sliver of the population, which I would call the true middle class. And then you have a gigantic portion encompassing pretty much everybody that I call the true working class. Now, what do I mean by working class? Because usually when you hear the term working class, you might think of, okay, a blue collar worker perhaps, or a lower income worker perhaps. It's typically the social norm of what we call the working class. I have a little bit of a different definition for it. What I call the working class is just simply anyone who must sell their labor to survive. In other words, anyone who must work. That is the working class. It's pretty straightforward, right? But this means that it encompasses everyone from burger flippers to bankers, right? From lawyers, doctors, to baristas. It's anybody who has to go to work on Monday morning. Now, obviously, this is a little bit of a crazy thing to say, right? It's a little bit of a radical idea because typically we don't think of bankers and baristas or burger flippers in the same social class. And I'm sure I might upset some people by saying that. So let me unpack this a little bit more so you can understand where I'm coming from here. But I would suggest to you that there's a lot more going on here. And I created this idea that I call the work iceberg to illustrate this. Because what I just described about work just being this thing where we need to contribute to it and we get money back and then we use the money to buy the things we want and need, that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg, right? Because there's all this stuff below the surface that we don't really talk about as much, and we kind of just take it for granted for some reason that this is the way work works.